Ever feel like, some critiques just sound like the same old complaints, you know, pointing out problems but not really offering a way forward?
Yeah, recycling the same issues again and again.
Exactly. So today, we're diving into a fascinating area called critical management studies, or CMS.
Hmm.
Now, CMS is, well, it's brilliant at highlighting what's wrong in organizations, but our sources point to a common trap, what they call one-dimensional critique.
Right, this sort of strong focus on negation, just pointing out the
Yeah,
problems.
without much else. So our mission for you today is to explore a new path, three-dimensional skepticism.
Okay.
This involves not just understanding and questioning, but also actively reparating, uh, basically making things better.
So moving beyond just identifying the dark side.
Precisely. How can we actually envision positive futures for management and organizations?
What's really compelling here, I think, is how that traditional CMS approach, while important, can sometimes get stuck. Criticizing the same things leading to these repetitive claims.
So this deep dive is all about injecting some new ideas, maybe a fresh perspective into that conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The first dimension is all about understanding.
Right.
And this means relaxing our assumptions, sort of letting go of those preset ideas we might have.
Like what?
Well, like, instead of just assuming management is inherently bad or that resistance to it is always good, we need to be open to surprise.
Mm-hmm.
And what's particularly striking from our sources is how research on workplace resistance often just assumes it's always progressive,
Yeah, it takes that as a given, but what if it isn't?
right?
That's a critical point.
Yeah.
Our sources highlight that sometimes resistance can actually undermine important work, or it might even be what they term decaf resistance.
Decaf resistance, what's that? Like coffee without the kick.
Exactly like that. It looks like opposition, the complaints, the eye rolls, maybe some passive aggression, but it never really escalates into an actual challenge or leads to change.
So it's just venting.
Pretty much. It becomes a way to vent and maybe bond with colleagues, but ultimately it just reinforces the status quo, no real impact.
Hmm.
So it really calls for what anthropologists call thick description. Like you're a detective immersing yourself in a complex case.
Okay.
You don't just look for evidence to fit your theory. You notice every detail, even the confusing bits, to uncover the real, multi-layered story.
I love that detective analogy. It really emphasizes needing that deeper understanding first.
Definitely.
And once those surprising insights emerge, that's when we gain the clarity to truly question things, not just what's wrong, but why it's wrong, and the complex dilemmas involved.
Which moves us neatly to the second dimension, questioning.
Right. Exploring those dilemmas and maybe using a bit of irony in our narratives, stepping beyond just the purely tragic stories.
Exactly. So instead of these sort of blanket rejections of, say, managerialism.
That idea that everything has to be managed and measured.
Yeah, that pervasive belief. Or rejecting bureaucracy out of hand.
Yeah.
We need to recognize they often have both helpful and unhelpful aspects. I mean, you yourself benefit from the order bureaucracy can provide.
True. Keeps the trains running on time sometimes.
Our sources talk about anti-anti-isms. It sounds a bit academic, but it just means questioning the automatic rejection of things we've been taught to criticize.
So, like, questioning the anti-bureaucracy stance.
Precisely. Anti-bureaucracy sounds good, is it? But an anti-bureaucracy approach says, hang on, bureaucracy also plays a vital role in protecting rights, ensuring fairness. It provides a necessary backbone.
Okay, I see.
Organizations aren't just iron cages, as the old saying goes. They can be more like a circus.
A circus. I love that. Messy, complex.
Sometimes even comical, yeah. It allows for a more nuanced, maybe less judgmental critique.
It certainly changes how you view those rigid structures, doesn't it? Okay, so if we understand better and we question with more nuance, how do we then actively, make things better?
Well, that brings us to the third dimension, reparation.
Making amends, fixing things.
Essentially, yes. Going beyond just exposing problems and actively working to make things better, one powerful technique they mention is deflation.
Deflation. Like letting the air out of a balloon.
Kind of. Taking the hot air out of overinflated concepts. Think of the boy in the Emperor's New Clothes.
Okay. Calling out the nonsense.
Exactly. And what's truly illuminating is how the research delves into this idea of functional stupidity.
Functional stupidity. Okay, that's a fantastic phrase. Tell me more.
Well, instead of solely seeing organizations as these hyper-rational, smart entities, they highlighted how much organizational life actually involves, well, socially prescribed stupidity, things people don't question, even when it seems absurd.
Wow, okay. That resonates. So what do they propose we do about it then?
They propose anti-stupidity management. practical, sometimes even playful ideas to counter it.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, imagine a colleague maybe discreetly checking off jargon-filled phrases during a meeting using bullshit bingo.
Huh. Okay, not necessarily to mock, but maybe to gently call out the empty talk, forcing the conversation back to something meaningful. Or using a formal devil's advocate role in discussions to challenge assumptions.
So concrete actions.
Yes, these aren't just critiques, they're concrete ways to create space for more meaningful work and maybe a less absurd reality.
This whole three-dimensional approach, it really offers a more imaginative, curiosity-driven, and ultimately, I think, a more helpful way to engage with critical studies.
It moves beyond just finding fault.
Yeah. It's not just about what's wrong, but how we can thoughtfully understand, question, and then actively contribute to positive change. So a final thought for you listening. What one-dimensional critiques might you encounter in your own life or work? And how could applying these three dimensions, understanding, questioning, and reparation, help you find a more nuanced perspective, and maybe even pathways to positive change?